Welcome back to room 303 in Freshman English, and we now turn in your hymnals in the study of the Odyssey to page 1048, 1049. The next adventure that Odysseus has is in the land of the Lotus-Eaters. All right? Let's follow along now and see what happens in this strange adventure here. This is clearly a different kind of adventure than the other adventure we've already looked at. Read it closely.
The Lotus-Eaters. Now Zeus, the lord of cloud, roused in the north a storm against the ships, and driving veils of squall moved down like night on land and sea. The bows went plunging at the gust. Sails cracked and lashed out strips of the big wind. We saw death in that fury, dropped the yards, unshipped the oars, and pulled for the nearest lee. Then 2 long days and nights we lay offshore, worn out and sick at heart, tasting our grief until a third dawn came with ringlets shining. Then we put up our masts, hauled sail, and rested, letting the steersman and the breeze take over. I might have made it safely home that time, but as I came round Malea, the current took me out to sea, and from the north a fresh gale drove me on past Cythera. 9 days I drifted on the teeming sea before dangerous high winds. Upon the 10th, we came to the coastline of the Lotus-Eaters, who live upon that flower. We landed there to take on water. All ships' companies mustered alongside for the midday meal. Then I sent out 2 picked men and a runner to learn what race of men that land sustained. They fell in soon enough with Lotus-Eaters, who showed no will to do us harm, only offering the sweet lotus to our friends. But those who ate this honeyed plant, the lotus, never cared to report nor to return. They longed to stay forever, browsing on that native bloom, forgetful of their homeland. I drove them all 3 wailing to the ships, tied them down under their rowing benches, and called the rest. All hands aboard. Come, clear the beach, and no one taste the lotus, or you lose your hope of home. Filing into their places by the rowlocks, my oarsmen dipped their long oars in the surf, and we moved out again on our seafaring.
All right, let's do this one really quickly. Now, obviously, let's go ahead and say it out loud. The lotus that is being eaten is dope. Okay, so let's just say that right away. This is going to be one of those simple kinds of identifications within the Odyssey that one can make very easily at level 3B. But let's jump quickly at level 1 just to make sure we got our summary down. He says, we almost made it home. You're going to get this motif a lot. We almost made it home. We had Zeus who sent a terrible storm on us. When we do conflict, one of those external conflicts is character versus nature. You can write this down in 2B really quickly. Here's an example of it. Zeus sends a storm. They end up getting knocked off track. And then all of a sudden they're lost in the middle of the sea, in the Aegean. He says, we ended up on this island, but we don't know where we are. Another normal motif. Odysseus will often send out scouts or runners to find out where they are. These scouts or runners go off to find out where they are, and they don't come back. And he's like, what is going on? And what's going on is that they found the Lotus-Eaters. Now, the lotus is just a flower. We think, of course, out here in the West as peyote, don't we, right? Okay, that will alter perception. That is to say, the lotus removes the ability to remember things, okay? In other words, they're stoned. And because they're stoned, they don't want to go back to the ship. They don't want to go home. They want to stay there and be in a stoned state for the rest of their life. Notice, to finish the story at level 1, Odysseus says, oh, no, you don't. 2 things. 1, you are going home. They, notice, drag them to the ships, but the guys are doing what? When they're going, they're crying, they're wailing. No, that's the normal way addicts are. Yes, addicts don't want help. They think they are doing great. Okay? So he has to pull them onto the boat. The second important thing is he says to all of his other guys, do not go near the dope. Because if you go near the dope, you're going to forget about going home. You will lose all of your ambition. As we've often said in 303, dope is the greatest cure for ambition. Think about that line. It takes away your desire to try to accomplish anything great, right? In other words, dude, this is way fine. We'll just stay here on the island with these, we'll just stay stoned all the rest of our life, okay? Now at 2A, you can obviously jot down a message of your own. One obvious message is you have to be careful, right? When you arrive in a strange place, and you have, I mean, think about this as freshmen arriving in high school. Because inevitably, you're going to have people who will say to you, you got to try X or try Y. And you're going to be like, you know, I better think about that before I do it, right? Another major message, something that seems amazing sometimes turns out to not be so amazing. That is to say, this lotus that they're eating would ultimately keep them from ever making it. Another major message, the only way you ever accomplish anything is to have ambition. If anything takes away that ambition from you, it's normally not going to be a healthy situation. At 2B, well, we've already mentioned potential conflict here, right? One obvious conflict is character versus nature in Zeus, and of course his, storms that are being thrown. We have the other conflict as well, if you'll think about it. That is to say, I want to stay, but it's not good for me to stay. I want to try the lotus, but it's not good for me to try the lotus. There's a kind of conflict involved there as well, obviously, right? Okay. At 3A, well, this is an interesting question. What are the texts for you that say that dope is bad? They either say it directly or indirectly, right? Notice here, this is a kind of indirect admonition, right? In other words, you got to be careful because it may be a great thing. I mean, people who argue that dope is something you don't enjoy, of course, are idiots, because dope obviously is something you enjoy. People wouldn't do it. It's not that it's not enjoyable, it's that it's what? Dangerous. It removes ambition and it turns you into something you're not. It makes you forget. What are the texts for you that come to mind here in regards to that? Later in your high school career, for example, we'll read other texts that will play similar kinds of games. Huxley's Brave New World comes to mind, where people enjoy the experience of just being stoned. When we get in your senior year to Gulliver's Travels, Gulliver will come to a land where they drink some kind of dope that will keep them sedated, so that everything is amazing and they feel incredible. Of course, if you think about the problems of today, let's jump to 3B. You're familiar with the fact that painkillers are one of the top forms of dope. Why? Well, because they make you feel awesome. They make you feel like you're eating lotus, right? Everything is great. I'll just kind of lay here and chill out. It's all going to be fine. Of course, the problem is it takes away all ambition. And after a while, you become addicted. And once you're addicted, think about how addiction is a form of forgetting. In your life, we can ask this question. Hopefully, you've never done dope. But we could ask this question. What has been a distraction from your ambition? Taking you away from the thing that kind of makes you ambitious. I've had students that say this out loud. Now that you say it this way, I hate to admit this, Mr. McGee, but gaming for me is an addiction. And it's kind of taken me away. That is to say, playing video games for me is my lotus. Right? It is my lotus. I don't want to do anything. When I was younger, before I started gaming, I loved to be outside playing, running. Now, anytime I get a chance, I've become more and more sedentary. The next time you pick up the paddle to play a game, think about the fact that these three guys just wanted to stay at the land of the Lotus-Eaters and do nothing else. Why? Because they forgot. What did they forget? What mattered? The only sin is to forget. Think about that one. Jot down maybe at 3B a moment when you have forgotten. Thank you.